16 years ago, Leeds almost did the impossible as they were knocked out of the semi-finals of the Champions League. They were drawn against Valencia in the Final Four, and after a 0-0 draw on the first leg at Ellen Road, the Yorkshire club were beaten 3-0 away from home to end their European adventure. So let's look at who started for Leeds that night and where they are now. In goal was Nigel Martyn. The former England international spent 7 years at Ellen Road, helping them knock out Barcelona, Lazio and Deportivo La Coruña on their way to the semi-finals of the Champions League. Martyn would leave the club in 2003 after a disagreement with Terry Venables and move to Everton, rejecting a move to Chelsea in the process. An ankle injury would force Martyn to retire in 2006, with David Moyes heralding him as his greatest ever signing. Obviously this was before he brought Julian Lescott to Sunderland. Following retirement, Martyn moved into coaching with Bradford City. Last summer, Martyn was playing cricket for Leeds Modernians and now seems to be enjoying a spot of golf at the age of 50. Right back was Danny Mills. 1 year after the European adventure, Mills was representing England at the 2002 World Cup, following an injury to first choice fullback Gary Neville. Mills missed Leeds' relegation season, spending it on loan at Middlesbrough where he won the League Cup. With Leeds dropping into the Championship, Mills joined Manchester City, back when they weren't proper rich, remaining there until his retirement in 2009, which included loan spells at Hull, Charlton and Derby. Since hanging up his boots, Mills came second on Celebrity MasterChef and now works in the media for the BBC. Centre back was Rio Ferdinand. The biggest name in this team, Rio Ferdinand captained Leeds at the Mestalla that night, but would leave 1 year later and become the most expensive British footballer of all time and the most expensive defender in the world for a second time, joining rivals Manchester United for just less than £30 million. His time at Old Trafford was littered with trophies and an 8-month ban for missing a drugs test, but it came to an end in 2014 when he joined QPR. He would spend just one season at Loftus Road and taste relegation, retiring in 2015 and moving into the media, like his former teammate Danny Mills. Unsurprisingly, the former England captain is a little higher up the ladder than the MasterChef runner-up. Next up it's Dominic Matteo. This was Matteo's first season at the club, and injuries to his teammates meant that he had to slot in at centre-back, performing admirably. He was named Leeds captain after Ferdinand's departure and was part of the 2004 side that were relegated. Matteo would join Blackburn that summer and then moved to Stoke in January of 2007, where injury ended his career. In 2013, Matteo was named a football ambassador at Leeds, but left a year later when Massimo Cellino took over the club. In 2015, Matteo was sadly declared bankrupt, amassing debt of more than £1 million from gambling. At left back was Ian Harte. The Irishman joined Leeds as a youngster back in 1995, and the free kick specialist scored a stunning goal in the quarter-finals against Deportivo and remained with the club until the relegation in 2004, heading to Spain with Levante. After 3 seasons, Harte returned to England to journey up and down the Football League, playing for Sunderland, Blackpool, Carlisle, Reading and finally Bournemouth, retiring in 2015. Nowadays, Harte works as a football agent, so let's hope he's teaching his clients how to take a free kick. On the right of midfield was Erik Bakke. The Norwegian's career might have been a lot more fruitful had it not been blighted by injury. Even after Leeds' relegation he remained with the club, briefly going on loan to Aston Villa before returning to Ellen Road. In 2006, Bakke finally left after making more than 100 appearances for Leeds, returning to Norway to play for SK Brann. In 2011, he returned to his first club, Sogndal, retiring 1 year later. In the middle was Olivier Dacour. Leeds paid £7.2 million for the French midfielder in 2000, breaking their transfer record at the time, and he quickly established himself as a fan's favourite. The departure of David O'Leary was the beginning of the end though for Dacour. A public spat with new boss Terry Venables saw him join Roma in 2003, initially on loan, and he remained in Italy until 2009, having also spent 3 years at Inter Milan, despite a brief return to England on loan with Fulham. His final club was Standard Liège in Belgium, leaving in February 2010. Nowadays, Dacour is a consultant for French TV channel Canal+, and if you click the link for his website in his Twitter bio, he also seems to be selling trainers. He was alongside David Batty. The midfielder returned to Leeds for a second spell in 1998, and his experience was pivotal during Leeds' boom under David O'Leary, forming a great partnership with Olivier Dacour. Batty retired in the summer of 2004, with his last game coming in January against form club Newcastle, where he picked up an injury. Since retirement, Batty has distanced himself from the game, having just seen it as a job. In 2015, Batty appeared in a promotional video for Leeds United season tickets and has also done work with cancer research alongside former players John Hartson and teammate Rio Ferdinand. On the left was Harry KEWELL. This is where things get messy. KEWELL is no longer a popular figure in Yorkshire, and that's putting it mildly. He left in 2003 to join Liverpool, picking up £4 million along the way, which is more than Leeds United received themselves, and after a Champions League win in Istanbul, he would make Turkey his home in 2008, joining Galatasaray in what was another controversial move, with 2 Leeds fans being killed in Istanbul before a UEFA Cup game with Galatasaray in the year 2000. KEWELL would go on to play for Melbourne Victory, Al Gharafa and Melbourne Heart before retiring in 2014. The Aussie became a coach at Watford in 2015, managing their under-21 side, and after being sacked in April this year, KEWELL is now head coach at League 2 side Crawley Town. Up front was VIDUKA. This was the Australian striker's first season at Leeds, having moved from Celtic for £6 million, scoring 22 goals in 53 appearances in his first season. He hit double figures in the Premier League in all 4 of his seasons at the club, and following their relegation to the Championship, VIDUKA would join Middlesbrough. He spent 3 seasons on Teesside and then stayed in the North East to join Newcastle in 2007. The Duke couldn't stop the Magpies from being relegated in 2009, and he was released ahead of the Championship campaign. VIDUKA is now back in his native Australia, working on obtaining his coaching badges. Interestingly, VIDUKA's cousin is Real Madrid midfielder Luka Modric. Fact of the day. And finally, it's Alan Smith. The bleach blonde forward saw red in the second leg against Valencia, being given his marching orders late in the game for an even later challenge on Vicente. After some of the best years of his career, Leeds' impending administration meant they needed to cash in on Smith, and he headed to rivals Manchester United for £7 million, a necessary deal that drew comparisons between Smith and Judas. His time at Man United would be defined by a leg break against Liverpool, and he would join Newcastle in 2007 for £6 million. He would suffer relegation for the second time in his career, but Smith remained on Tyneside and helped captain them back to the Premier League. Now a midfielder, Smith joined MK Dons in 2012, initially on loan, and then headed to Notts County in 2014, where he remains a player coach working alongside former teammate Kevin Nolan. So that's where Leeds' 2001 Champions League semi-finalists are now. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.